It should benefit the Cubs, although the White Sox like to hit the ball out of the park, too.
Well, whichever team ends up hitting more balls out of the ballpark will probably win this game today. The wind is howling straight out, and it behooves both pitchers to keep the ball down.
And we hope to avoid the rain as well. Overcast skies, very warm temperatures, and as you see, the flags blowing straight out to center. Let's check on the highlights of yesterday's road trip finale. The Cubs on an 11-day, 9-game trip, and unfortunately it did not end well. Second inning, Corey Hart with his league-leading 16th home run. That was off Ryan Dempster to make it 1-0. Dave Bush a little bit later on with an RBI single. And that gave Milwaukee another lead at 2-1. Ryan Theriot in the 5th inning with an infield hit. Tie game 2-2. Xavier Nady had a very good day at the plate, not so much defensively, more on that later, but a 2-run homer to give the Cubs the lead. That made it 4-3 in the 6th, but walks were a problem for the Cubs pitching staff. 9 on the afternoon, including a bases-loaded walk to Ryan Braun from Jeff Stevens, as Milwaukee got an unearned run to tie it in the 6th inning. 3 walks and an error in that frame. Now we move to the 10th. Runner going, Carlos Gomez with excellent speed. The sac bunt by Counsell. Xavier Nady's throw to Coy Hill at third gets past him. In to score is Carlos Gomez. A very tough 5-4 loss in 10 innings. The Cubs made 3 errors. In a lot of ways, Bob, they really beat themselves yesterday. Yeah,
you said 3 separate innings when the Brewers scored a run without the benefit of a base hit. They got to tighten up the defense, have to tighten up the base running. Every fundamental aspect of the game has been lacking for the Cubs.
So as we get set for the Crosstown Series, Gail Fisher caught up with Cubs general manager Jim Hendry.
All right, thanks, Len. Well, Jim, usually the Cubs Sox take center stage, but I'm sure you don't mind having a little less attention on you because of the Blackhawks right now.
Well, it's great for the Blackhawks. I talked to John McDonough this morning. I couldn't be happier for them. The city, it's tremendous. What a great bunch of guys. Played together all year. The coach did a tremendous job, and what a great thing for the city. It was really fun to watch. I don't know much about the ins and outs of hockey growing up in Florida, but what a spectacular thing, and I looking forward to seeing all those guys here on Sunday.
Well, a great weekend for the Cubs and Sox. This is unusual, though, to have both of the teams a little down this season.
Yeah.
Usually one team is really good or the other or both.
Yeah.
It's rare that you're both kind of struggling.
Well, it's a shame because I think we're all realistic with ourselves. I was just talking to Ozzie about it. We both left spring training feeling we both had, good, solid contending teams, and it's getting to the point now. The next 2 or 3 weeks, we got to get ourselves back in it, both of us, or it's going to be a long uphill battle. But I think we're both very disappointed. But both clubs feel like they have a lot better team than they've shown. Maybe the next couple of weeks will jumpstart both of us in some way, or certainly one or the other. Maybe how the 2 series go.
What would you say to fans who think the playoffs are not in the future for this team this season?
Well, I wouldn't concede that yet for either team. We're 7.5 games back. 3 weeks ago Atlanta was 7 behind the Phillies. Now they got a lead. You need to have a good 20 out of 30, 22 out of 30 type of thing. You got to get back in it, but there's a lot of games left, and we were this far behind in 07, and caught Milwaukee, but we certainly have to start doing our part. We just came off our road trip. We didn't play good baseball, and it was a trip that we thought we could have made some hay, and end up going 3-6, which was really disappointing. So the next 2 or 3 weeks, I think you'll find out a lot about us.
Jim, can you put your finger on it? Because on paper, you've added a guy who's gone 8-0 for you in the rotation, and you have some young guys in a Tyler Colvin and some other guys who are hitting. Marlon Byrd is hitting. Can you put your finger on why this isn't going the way you want it?
It's been a collective effort. We've had spurts where we didn't hit with men on base, left a ton of people on, a lot of the losses. I think we've lost like 13 games where the other team only scored 3 runs or less. We've lost a lot of 1-run games, so lately we haven't played very well, fundamentally, and like yesterday was really a bad game. We had some troubles early in the year in the pen. Now the pen's been pretty good. Castner's kind of stabilized that, and Marshall's been terrific. So it's been a collective effort of not where we should be, and it's time to start doing something about it.
Have you had a chance to talk to Aramis Ramirez, who not only was struggling but has had the sore
I didn't
thumb
see
now?
Aramis today. I spoke to him in Pittsburgh. I was in Pittsburgh with the club and then went to Arizona for the draft, so I did not make the trip to Houston or to Milwaukee. So I'm sure I'll see him sometime today or tomorrow. But I think it's one of those things where we've got to try to clear that up once and for all. It's been a mystery to all of us how he, probably the first time in his career he's had a prolonged stretch of not hitting. I mean, he'd be the last guy I think the whole town would have been worried about not hitting, and it certainly has not gone the way we all expected it to.
And Randy Wells, the pitcher on the mound for this game 1 of the series, has struggled a couple of times, especially in that first inning.
Yeah.
Is this just one of those sophomore slump kind of things? Have you talked to him at all?
Well, he's pitched a lot of good games too. He's had 2 or 3 real bad ones, and he's pitched really well. And just like 2 weeks ago, he pitched a really gem in Texas and against a tough team in a tough ballpark. So we're hoping he gets off to a good start. But the days he's had trouble, you kind of know it right away. But I think he's tough enough to overcome it. He's given us not only a solid first couple months besides those 2 or 3 starts, but a real good year last year. So there's nothing wrong with him physically. He's just got to find a way to get off to a little better start.
All right. I know the pressure is always on you as general manager of the Cubs, but with the White Sox ending their drought in 05 and now the Blackhawks ending their drought, next up the Cubs.
Well, it's time, that's for sure. We need to get something done big here the next couple of years, absolutely.
All right, Jim, thank you very much. Len, let's send it back to you.
All right, Gail, thank you. Thanks to Jim Hendry as well. Storm clouds brewing. Let's hope we can dodge them today. The White Sox and the Cubs renew this rivalry. Coming up. Impending rain. I don't think it's raining right now, but we saw the ground screw right around the tarp, and that's usually a sign of rain on the way.
Yeah, that combined with the fact we didn't see either starting pitcher come out to begin their warm-ups, and given the fact it's 10 after 1, I don't think we're going to start on time.
Well, this all-time series very competitive, going back to when interleague play started in 1997. So far, the White Sox have won 37, the Cubs at 35. Both teams a little bit better at home. As you can imagine, and the Cubs haven't scored in a while against the White Sox.
It's amazing that after this many games in interleague play that the numbers are that close. The White Sox obviously have had some really good teams in the recent past, 2005 to be exact. Cubs have had some playoff teams in recent memory, but the all-time series stands 2 games apart.
Seems like we talk about this every time we see the White Sox. Yes, these games are maybe a little bit more important. The fans get into it, and there's some city pride on the line. This year, a trophy, the BP Cup, is on the line for the team that wins the most games. But we always go back to taking care of your own business, and as we heard Jim Hendry say, the Cubs are not playing good baseball right now. Maybe one of their worst games of the year yesterday. Fundamentally, they just need to get on some sort of roll.
Well, and I think some of the players are starting to come to that realization. We saw some comments from Coy Hill after the ball game in Milwaukee yesterday, maybe out of frustration, but I think he was spot on. He said we need to play better fundamental baseball. We need to be more alert. We can't take pitches off. We can't take at-bats off. We can't take innings off. And if you do that, you'll find yourself in a better position to win ball games, and I applaud Coy for his comments.
And they also talk about momentum is your starting pitcher. In the case of the Cubs, it's Randy Wells. Randy's had some first-inning problems. Now, with this delay, I guess the routine is changed even more, but the Cubs are going to try a couple of things to avoid some of the first-inning problems.
Yeah, Lou was talking about possibly have Randy Wells finish his warm-ups in the bullpen and go straight out to the game mound rather than go in the dugout and sit down for 5 minutes, get a glass of water, towel off a little bit, go straight from the bullpen out to the game mound. There are other things you can do. You can simulate the first 3 or 4 hitters in the game once you're good and loose, so you have a better idea when the game starts exactly what you want to do to those opposing hitters. And quite honestly, you really have to try anything because the first inning has been hugely disappointing for Randy Wells this year.
And Bob, to see Jake Peavy with an ERA well over 5 is shocking, considering how good he was as a San Diego Padre.
No question about it. He's one of the best pitchers in the National League for quite a while. He got into some mechanical issues because of the sore ankle last year. He shortened up his stride. That caused his arm angle to change. He says he's working on correcting those mechanical issues, so we'll see how it goes for Jake Peavy today.
And with the wind blowing out, the pitchers are going to have to keep the ball down as much as possible. The White Sox today, they're going to be without Omar Vizquel. He's attending a family matter, so he will not play this weekend. He hit a home run yesterday, executed a suicide squeeze, and in a National League park, you lose another guy out of your bench.
Well, not to mention the defense that Omar Vizquel brings and the veteran leadership, a guy that's seen just about every situation that may come up over the course of a ball game. I think they're going to miss him in this series.
All right, Cubs and White Sox coming up. I know Dave Van Dyke from the Chicago Tribune is going to chat with us here for a few minutes as we wait. The tarp not on the field, but we're going to wait an extra 20 to 25 minutes before the first pitch here this afternoon. We'll have more from Wrigley. Stay with us. overshadowed a bit by the Blackhawks celebration today. It's a great thing for the city, but it's also fun to have the two baseball teams go at it, and great to have Dave Van Dyke with us. You've covered most, if not all of these, haven't you, David?
It's fun to be here. This is always a fun time for me. We keep talking about the times you don't want to cover our opening day in Cubs and Sox because all the media is out here, so you don't feel like you're kind of crushed in. Where those of us who are here every day, we get used to a little space. But it's fun. It's fun to have a big media throng here. It's fun to have some pregame excitement, which we had today. It seems like every Cubs Sox series there's something going on, and that makes it good.
Both teams are under 500. You'd have to say they both definitely have underachieved. In the case of the Cubs, we saw a pretty bad fundamental game defensively yesterday, and a team that at times struggles to score runs. Those things have to be tightened up for this team to win consistently.
Boy, there's no doubt about it. I mean, when you don't have good starting pitching, which they didn't yesterday, Dempster walked a lot of guys. You got bad defense, you got bad fundamentals, and I think Lou said 1 for 9, 1 for 10 with runners scoring position. That just about does it all. That wraps up the whole thing.
And Dave, one of the things talking about the fundamental mistakes that the Cubs have made this year, you would assume it to be Starlin Castro and Tyler Colvin, maybe some of the young kids that are still learning their way at the major league level, but that hasn't been the case. Some of the fundamental mistakes have been by the veteran guys that you expect to know how to play the game better.
Yeah, the ball dropped between Bird and Fukudome yesterday, and they've played out there most of the year. Bird's played basically every day, and Fukudome's played more than half the time, I think, in right field. So, yeah, they got to get their communication down, either in Japanese or English or whatever. They got to come up with something. We did see Castro make a mistake, and I'm not talking about his throwing error, the one that let Jim Edmonds on first base. It was a high hopper, and it took a couple little hops, and he went back on the ball instead of coming in, and Edmonds ran as hard as he could and beat it out. It's those type of things. It was Terrio throwing to first base instead of second for the double play. And sometimes, they don't show up as errors. None of those 3 plays showed up as errors, but they were all plays that should have gone the other way.
Yeah, Len and I were talking about it just a moment ago. I don't know if I've ever seen it happen in one game, but the Brewers scored in 3 separate innings without the benefit of a base hit.
I'll tell you, I've been around. I've been here a long time on both sides. I can't remember that. You see it once in a while, and you're right about it because it is so unusual when it happens in one time. Bases loaded walk or a wild pitch or something. But I mean, to happen 3 times, it's like impossible to do. Yeah.
And you've seen the White Sox a number of times this year, and certainly they're struggling every bit as much as the Cubs. What have you seen from the Sox this year?
Well, what we've seen from the Cubs, they aren't as bad fundamentally this year. They have improved their defense a little bit. So their defense has improved, but they haven't hit with runners in scoring position. Starting pitching has been real bad. And when you don't have the starting pitching, you don't have the hitting, and you know this, BB, as well as anybody, that's a real bad combination. You're going to lose a lot of games 6-1 and 7-0. It's just the way it is.
On the starting pitching, they're 29th in the majors in starters ERA. That is shocking to me, Dave, considering going into the season, a lot of people were talking about the White Sox having one of the best rotations in baseball. Jake Peavy today. Mark Burley struggled. In some ways, their 5th starter has been their most consistent guy. And in a lot of ways for the Cubs, their 4th starter, I guess Silva was going into the season, has been their best guy.
Yeah, isn't that funny? The 2 guys who were kind of additions at the end, Silva for the Cubs and Freddie Garcia for the White Sox. And, the guy, well, we need somebody to fill out the rotation. They kind of deserved it. We'll give them a chance. And here they are, the best pitchers on their team. That's an amazing thing about baseball. It's such a fascinating game because you never know. And you look at the number of repeats champions that baseball's had in the last 15 years. Nobody repeats anymore. It's really a fascinating game. When you think you know what's going on, you don't know what's going on. It's really neat.
These 2 teams have been playing, and it's counted, since 1997. You had exhibition games before that. Is there one particular moment that stands out to you? I think a lot of fans might say the Barrett-Pierzynski incident, but there have been some classic games here along the way.
Yeah, I think the Barrett-Pierzynski pile-up is probably that whole thing, and then Z giving up a home run and pointing in his head, and we're thinking he's saying, watch, the next one's going to be at your head. That whole thing, I think, will be forever a part of what this series has been. Before it became an official series, the part I remember most is Michael Jordan playing, and was here at Wrigley Field and getting a hit. And the guy couldn't hit a lick, you know. He couldn't hit a basketball coming up there. His swing was awful. And you could throw him a basketball underhanded, and he couldn't hit it. And Michael Jordan actually getting a hit. He looked so out of place, too, with a big helmet on. It just didn't look right, but it was kind of a cool moment.
All right, these two teams, again, under 500. I think the Cubs are in a better position simply because of their division. We haven't seen the Twins a whole lot, but it looks like they are for real. The Cardinals are the one team that's still a little baffling. They are not quite as good as everybody thought. Right now, 33-27.
Yeah, did you say you thought the Cubs were in better shape?
I did, because of their division.
I'm not sure I agree with you. I don't think Cincinnati is a great team. Like, you know, they're playing real well. And they're probably about that or a little on that 500 team. I think the Cardinals are a real good team. I really do. When you got, if Jamie Garcia is for real, the rookie pitcher, you got three pitchers who ERA is going to be between 2 and 3, and you can throw three guys out in the same series to do that. I'm telling you, I think the Cardinals are pretty good. Pujols is going to hit again, and Holiday is going to hit before the season's over. We saw it here when they came to Wrigley Field. He was just beginning to hit a little bit. I like the Cardinals a lot. I think the Cardinals could be one of those teams that could be a good playoff team. You got the three starters right away. You got Franklin at the end. You got a bullpen that's not too bad. And you got a lineup that's good enough to throw you together 4, 5, 6 runs most days.
And we have found that just get in. You can be the wild card, and it doesn't matter.
That's all you got to do. The Cardinals did it. 2006, I think it was. And they got in, and, you know, everybody thought Detroit was going to win that thing, and the Cardinals get in, and Detroit throws the ball all over the place, and all of a sudden the Cardinals, here we are. Yeah, it's a funny thing once you're in the playoffs what can happen, and we saw that in 2005 with the White Sox when all of a sudden their whole pitching staff, at the end of the year, they're at their strongest, and they're going 7, 8, 9 innings at the end of the year. You're going, it's not supposed to happen, but it is.
All right, last thing, Dave Van Dyke from the Chicago Tribune. Steven Strasburg. Are you going to make a special trip to see him pitch if it doesn't match up with your schedule this year?
I don't know if it'll match up with my schedule because unless he comes to town, but because I do both teams and I'm usually around here. But he's a good-looking kid, I'll tell you that much. He reminds me a lot of Pryor, Mark Pryor. He's got that same lower heavy body where you got the big thighs and the big legs and a nice trunk. And that's what Pryor had. I know when Seaver was with the White Sox, I remember talking to him about, you know, he wrote the book about pitching and all that stuff. He said, the thing that's overlooked with pitchers are their legs. And he kept saying, you got to have strong legs. You have to have strong legs. You got to get the push. And, you know, you look at guys, and some guys like Maddox can get away with junk, you know. But I think there's something to that. And you look at the real phenoms that come along. Mark Pryor was a real phenom. People forget how good he was for a couple of years. They say, well, Mark Pryor was a failure. And, oh, no. Mark Pryor got hurt. He got hit in the elbow by a line drive. Mark Pryor was a great pitcher for a couple of years.
And I thought he had a Kerry Wood-like slider in his debut as well. That ball was moving all over the place. Always a good time with you, Dave. Let's get this thing underway here soon, huh?
Yeah, it'd be nice. You know, I should say something about Woody, too, because I was at that game where he struck out everybody. And Woody was a little bit different kind of pitcher back then. He was different than he became later on. But I'll tell you what, that's as dominating a performance as that was better than Strasburg's, no doubt.
You're right. One of the most dominating performances in baseball history. Dave, thanks for the time. Enjoy this one.
My pleasure.
All right, we will be back here to Wrigley Field getting you set for the Cubs and the Sox on Comcast Sportsnet. hosting the Sox. These two teams will match up 6 times over the next 2 weeks. We have a few extra minutes here, and it's always great to have with us in the booth Mike Lafrano, the Cubs Senior Vice President of Community Affairs and General Counsel. We got to get you in a short sleeve shirt at some point today, Mike.
It's the work uniform here today. But it's a great day. It's going to be, the sun's going to come out, and we're going to play a ball game real soon.
Let's talk about Hey Dad, Want to Have a Catch, one of the great charity events here at Wrigley Field, a chance to go down to the field and basically play baseball.
It really is. It's one of my favorite events of the year, and for anybody who hasn't figured out a Father's Day present yet, it's a great Father's Day gift. Come on out to the ballpark. It's coming up on Saturday, the 26th of June. Tickets are at Cubs.com, and you get an hour time slot where you can really do whatever you want on Wrigley Field. Walk up to the Ivy, see what it's like to throw a ball from the outfield to home plate, run the bases, stand in the batter's box, and feel what it's like to face down a major league pitcher, or just walk and sit in the dugouts where Babe Ruth was, and Ernie Banks and Billy Williams and all the Cubs greats and all the current Cubs too.
So many people come to this ballpark a lot, and they get a great view from different vantage points in the ballpark, but there's nothing quite like standing, right in front of home plate or in the outfield or wherever you want to be on Wrigley Field.
There's nothing like it. Those of us who are here all the time are privileged to be able to do it every now and again. You, I know, get to do it on a regular basis, and still every time I walk on the field I get a chill. It's such a special place. There's nothing like it in baseball. Being able to walk on Wrigley Field, to feel the grass, to see the base lines, and know that you're doing the same thing that maybe your father was, or your grandfather, or your grandmother years ago and generations ago. And getting to walk on the field is just unlike any other experience.
And it's baseball season, which means it's also Wrigley Field tour season.
Absolutely. We have tours available, and like I always say, whether you've been to Wrigley Field once or 1,000 times, you probably haven't seen something that you could pick up on a Wrigley Field tour. You get to go behind the scenes, look in the locker rooms, see the press box, come up and sit where we are right now, and get a beautiful view of the whole ballpark. It really is special. It's a 90-minute tour. You get a knowledgeable tour guide who will tell you facts about the game and about the ballpark, and I learn something new on every tour I take.
Last thing, Mike, people who come to the ballpark this weekend and from here on out will notice one change, and that is the Toyota sign has been erected just beyond the left center field bleachers.
That's true. The Toyota sign went up over the last day. We got approval from the City Council on Wednesday. And it's another one of the additions to Wrigley Field that have taken place over the 97-year history of the ballpark. We are, as you know, one of the only ballparks in all of sports that's funded entirely through private money. We have to raise the dollars that it takes to maintain a special, unique venue and a 97-year-old facility. And we do that through advertising, through sponsors, and obviously through our fans and the generosity of the people who come watch baseball here. The Toyota sign is an addition like the bleacher expansion a few years ago, like the addition of mezzanine suites, another in the process of the evolving nature of Wrigley Field that hopefully will help sustain it for the next 50 or 100 years.
Well, I just hope Alfonso Soriano hits one over that sign for number 300. Mike, thanks for the time. Let's have some fun today.
Thanks for having me on. Let's win a ball game.
All right, Mike Lafrano, the Cubs Senior Vice President of Community Affairs and General Counsel. We'll have Cubs baseball coming up. The Cubs hosting their Southside rivals next.
White Sox.
It's the Southsiders.
Hey, he's the White Sox.
It's the Pale Hose coming up next.
Today for the Cubs and the Sox. It's all now for the BP Crosstown Cup. First of 6 over the next 2 weeks as the White Sox and Cubs open up a 3-game weekend series. Hi again, everyone. Along with Bob Brenly, I'm Len Casper. Welcome to Cubs Baseball on Comcast Sportsnet. Talk more about this long-time series going back to '97 here in a few minutes, but let's talk about Marlon Byrd. This will be his first experience in this crosstown series, and man, does he come into the series red hot.
Well, Marlon's been talking for weeks about how much he's been looking forward to this series. Certainly he's very familiar with the White Sox, and he's getting this series at just the right time. He has been absolutely on fire. In the month of June, you know, Len, you think back to the first month of the season, it was Fukudome who was red hot. Then Alfonso Soriano throughout the month of May. Now Marlon Byrd in June. The problem is you need the entire team to get hot at the same time.
For the White Sox, the one guy who's been consistent against the Cubs over the last decade or so is Paul Konerko.
And he's always played extremely well in these Crosstown Classic ball games. Konerko having a bang-up season. He's a free agent at the end of the year, by the way. One of a number of really good first basemen that's going to be available as free agents at the end of this season. We're
going to see nothing but American League teams over the next couple of weeks. Do you expect the style of play to change? Obviously, when we go to Seattle and the South Side, you're going to have the DH.
Well, I think, especially the series against the Angels, you're going to see a much more aggressive base-running team. They play the game fundamentally sound. The rest of the series, we'll see what happens.
Let's go down to the field, our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave.
There have been some great contests, some great players who have participated in this series going back to 1997. We will resume the Crosstown Series coming up. The White Sox and the Cubs from Wrigley Field. Confines of Wrigley Field, the lights are on because of the overcast conditions. And as we get set for the Sox and Cubs, and that's what they're playing for now. The team that wins the most games out of 6 will take home the BP Crosstown Cup. And if the series ends up 3-3, it'll be the team that wins the final game of the season series. And prior to today's game, Edward Jones representative Brian Mueller presented the Edward Jones Player of the Month award to Sean Marshall for his outstanding month of May. 5 wins for Marshall in May. Edward Jones making sense of investing. Let's get into the White Sox Southwest starting lineup. They hit home runs and steal bases. Juan Pierre does the latter. No homers, but 23 steals on the year. Alexei Ramirez at short. Rios having a very good year. Konerko, Jones, Przinsky in the middle. Beckham, Nix, Peavy at the bottom.
Take a look at the Cubs defensively today, brought to you by Jimmy John. Soriano, Bird, and Fukudome across the outfield this afternoon. Chad Tracy will be starting at third. Starlin Castro at short. Ryan Theriot and Derek Lee will be on the right side of the infield. Coy Hill back behind the plate once again today for right-hander Randy Wells. We've talked about it repeatedly throughout the early part of the day. First inning so vitally important for Randy Wells to establish his pitches. Escape without damage in the first. He's been pretty good after the first inning this year.
C.B. Buckner gets the plate today. Doug Eddings at first. Dana DeMuth, the crew chief, at second. Kerwin Danley is over at third. Sorry about that. Must have been something I ate for breakfast. By the way, the reason for the delay, there was a cell that they were thinking might have come through here between 12:30 and 1. It did not, fortunately. And there's a routine for the starting pitchers. They need a certain amount of time to get ready, but because they didn't want to send them out there and only to have it rain, once we got past that window, they had to move the start time back about 20 minutes. So here we go. Randy Wells against former Cub Juan Pierre, and a first pitch sinking fastball for a strike. This also gave a few fans who were at the parade and the Blackhawks celebration downtown a few extra minutes to get here. Wells likes to work quickly as Juan Pierre. It's a high fly ball. That's deep. Fukudome's back on it, and he makes the catch right in front of the wall. Well, normally you want Juan Pierre to hit the ball in the air, but with the wind blowing out, I think the bleachers are reachable for everybody.
Everybody, including the pitchers today. Juan Pierre, not a guy that normally tries to muscle up and pull the ball, does just that. Wind blowing straight out to center field, not nearly as brisk right now as it was during batting practice, but Kosuke Fukudome had a good beat on that drive, never took his eye off of it, and made the catch right before the eye.
Fastball in there against Alexei Ramirez. He was a Cub killer last year. 4 go-ahead RBIs against the Cubs last season. 3 were home runs.
Squared that one up right in the middle of the pocket of that big outfielder's glove. That's so important after a long run like that. Sometimes the ball will hit the heel of the glove or up too far in the webbing and you're not able to squeeze it, but that time Fukudome caught it right in the middle of the pocket.
Good look from our super slow-mo. The 1-2 on the way, and Ramirez foul tips. That's a strikeout.
So far, so good for Randy Wells. That little bit of subtle movement that he gets on that sinking fastball. Let's say Ramirez a real good low fastball hitter. Swung right over the top of that sinker.
Here's Alex Rios, who's been very good. Some thought he would be the key to their success this season. He's done his part, but the White Sox come in 7 games under 500.
Now, we were talking earlier, Len, you look at this White Sox lineup, and obviously everybody with a bat in their hands can be dangerous, especially with the wind blowing out. But you get the feeling if you can work your way around Rios and Konerko and at least limit the damage that those two guys do, you have a pretty good chance to beat this team.
Ozzie and Lou looked like they had a nice chat at home plate as they exchanged the lineup cards. That's lofted out into shallow right center for a base hit, as Rios will give Paul Konerko an opportunity. Konerko comes in with a 15-game hitting streak at Wrigley Field.
We'll see how aggressive Ozzie wants to be in this series. Alex Rios, 18 stolen bases in 22 attempts this season. Of course, as we just mentioned, Konerko, one of the hotter White Sox hitters, having an outstanding season, especially power numbers. You might see Rios hold over there until there's 2 strikes on the White Sox first baseman.
Konerko began his career as a Dodger in '97. 26 games with Cincinnati in '98, and he's been a White Sox since '99. But as Bob mentioned, as Rios was leaning a little bit, Paul Konerko a free agent after this season. Derek Lee also a free agent. 2 guys who've manned their positions for a long time here in Chicago. A pause by Wells and another throw. Rios back. Strike throwers tomorrow: Carlos Silva for the Cubs, Mark Burley for the White Sox, and then Sunday night the Cubs will have Ted Lilly on the mound, right-hander Gavin Floyd for the Southsiders. That's a strike, 0-1. Some Braves Hawks fans wearing their sweaters today.
Ooh, good day for a sweater. This is one of the steamier afternoons we've had here at Wrigley this year. The humidity high. Threat of rain at some point during the day, hopefully after the ball game is over.
We had a 21-minute delay. Hawk Harrelson getting into the Hawk feel today with his Blackhawks jersey. White Sox are second in the American League with 60 steals, third with 71 home runs. But the key number is runs, and they're 10th. Give you all these other numbers: on base, slugging, steals, homers, but all that matters, Bob, are wins and losses. And how do you win? You score. Rios takes off on the 1-2, and he's going to make the turn and easily make third. Back-to-back singles with 2 outs.
Fastball up a little bit. You can see Coy Hill coming out of his crouch behind home plate in an effort to throw out Rios, but Konerko spoils that by lining that fastball into center field, putting White Sox runners at the corners with 2 outs here in the first.
For Andrew Jones. Kind of interesting, the White Sox have 3 center fielders in the lineup today. Juan Pierre, Alex Rios, and Andrew Jones. But only one gets to play center. That's Rios. Jones, a 10-time Gold Glover. He's playing right. A foul strike on Jones.
Andrew Jones carrying a .216 batting average into play today, but don't be totally fooled. He is providing some long balls, 10 home runs on the season. He can still be a dangerous hitter if you make a mistake.
398 career home runs. And the pitch, 0-2 on Jones. Andrew Jones worked under Rudy Jaramillo in Texas in 2009. And we talked to Marlon Byrd earlier this year. Marlon Byrd learned a lot from Andrew Jones in 09 as they were teammates. Starting to lightly rain as Wells deals ball one, 1-2. Nothing that would get in the way of the ball game, but it is raining. We take our cues from the fans. Nobody's moved yet. That's a good sign.
They probably just think it's the guy behind him sweating on him.
I was going to say it might feel good. Two the count. Randy Wells beat the White Sox last year on the South Side on June 26th. 7 innings, 2 runs. Cubs 5-4 victory. The pitch, 3-2. So he's missed on 3 straight to get it to a full count. Hello, AJ. AJ Przinsky on deck. There goes Konerko on the 3-2, and the White Sox get the lead. And Konerko, maybe the slowest runner in the majors, easily gets to third. Rio scoring. Jones with his RBI of number 22, and it's 1-0.
There have been some past starts for Randy Wells where the onus fell completely on his shoulders for his first inning struggles, but that's not a bad pitch to Andrew Jones. A changeup below the knees on the outside corner. That's just a nice piece of hitting by a veteran.
One of the greatest lines ever uttered, and it was about AJ Przinsky as he digs in. And I'm paraphrasing. It was Ozzie, right? If you play against him, you hate him. If he's on your team, you hate him less. But we have praised Przinsky's baseball instincts. And every time, unfortunately, he faces the Cubs, he does something to help his team win. Slightly open stance, left-handed hitter outside. 1 ball, no strikes.
And a lot of question as to how much longer AJ is going to be in the black uniform. He's a 10-5 man as of a week from today. That means 10 years in the majors, 5 with the same team, and in effect he would have a no trade right.
Mark Burley in a similar situation. 2-0.
I asked him before the game if he had any inkling as to what may happen over the next week, and he said he has no idea, but he is looking forward to getting it over with so he doesn't have to talk about it anymore.
Another base hit. That is 4 in a row. Konerko in. Jones holding at second. It's 2-0. And Larry Rothschild's coming out. So more first inning issues for Randy Wells. 4 consecutive singles.
Well, and I think I mentioned this in Randy Wells' last start, and I'll bring it up again today, and this is just my own opinion. But Randy Wells has developed a reputation in his short time in the major leagues as a strike thrower. I think it may be time to maybe not throw quite as many strikes. Stand up a hitter once in a while, make him uncomfortable in that batter's box. When you face a pitcher that has a reputation for throwing strikes, hitters tend to be a little more aggressive. They lean out over that plate. They don't worry about getting knocked down or knocked off the plate. I'm not suggesting that he headhunt or hit opposing hitters, but you got to keep them honest. Keep them off of that outside corner.
So this is the 4th start in which he's given up multiple runs in the first inning. Gordon Beckham now playing second base. He played third last year, and he pops it up. Beckham really has struggled in his sophomore campaign, and Wells gets out of the inning but does give up 2. Jake Peavy to the mound, leading 2-0. Couple of days ago and has always done well against the AL. Marlon Byrd, the hottest Cub. Soriano sitting on 299 homers. Tracy Hill Castro, and then the pitcher Randy Wells.
Look at the White Sox Jimmy John's defense for today. Juan Pierre, Alex Rios, and Andrew Jones across the outfield. It'd be Jason Nix at third, Alexei Ramirez at shortstop, Gordon Beckham at second base, Paul Konerko at first. That guy, A.J. Przinsky, behind the plate for right-hander Jake Peavy.
Fukudome fouls off. Those numbers are right. A 5.90 ERA for a guy who won a couple of ERA titles in the National League. In fact, he led the majors in ERA in 04 and 07 as a Padre. Kosuke 4 for 6 against Peavy. Go Cubs.
You see Jake Peavy feature a couple of different fastballs, a tailing heater in the low 90s, a cut fastball. He'll try to run in on the lefties. A hard slider, an occasional straight changeup. Talked about the mechanical issues he was having after an ankle injury. He was landing about 6 inches shorter in the front of the mound than he had been the year before, and that caused his arm angle to change by as much as, in his words, a foot.
Three and two. These things are so subtle. Sometimes you get into bad habits, you don't even know you're doing it. Sharply hit on the ground, and a little bobble, but a bad throw. So Beckham tried to hurry it, and it cost him. And the leadoff man is on. It's an error on Beckham, his 7th.
Yeah, a little bobble initially, but able to stay with it. It was the throw that was the error on this play. You see he's still in good shape right there. Just air mails it to Paul Konerko, giving Fukudome an opportunity to get on the bag under the tag.
See if the Cubs can take advantage. Here's Terrio with Fukudome on, nobody out. 4 hits and 2 runs for the White Sox in the top of this first inning. A strike to Terrio. Eight hits over his last 5 games after a 2 for 25 slump. It's a double play ball. Beckham, Ramirez, Canerco, 4-6-3. Well, Beckham makes up for the error. And most guys would tell you after you make a defensive miscue, you want the next ball hit right at you.
While we have a moment, let's take a look at our Coors Light freeze cam. Jim Edmonds making a catch near the warning track in center field. Ryan Terrio trying to score from third base as Marlon Byrd tried to go first to second. You can see Byrd was clearly out at second until Ricky Weeks dropped the ball. Terrio was not on home plate. Big break on that play for the Cubs. This is brought to you by Frost Brewed Coors Light, the world's most refreshing beer.
First action for Derek Lee since Wednesday when he hit his 300th home run. Swing and a miss. And just like that, the inning is over. An error, a double play ball, and a strikeout. The White Sox lead after 1, 2-0. For information, visit Cubs.com. And no, there won't be anybody standing on the warning track who will tell you, we just found out you're 2 credit hours short.
Ooh.
Back of the line.
Nightmare. What do you mean that internet course doesn't count?
Jason Nix playing third base. Omar Vizquel has been hot lately. Had a big game yesterday and probably would have been at third, but he is away from the team due to a family matter and will miss this entire weekend series. Martine's on the DL. That's deep to center. Marlon Byrd back, gets it right against the wall. So the White Sox have had 2 fly balls go right to the vines. Pierre's in the first, and now Nix here in the second.
Much like Fukudome on his play in right field, Marlon Byrd never takes his eye off the ball. That's the good field awareness, knowing how much room you have. No need to look back and see where the wall is. Just keep your eye on that ball and make the play.
Jake Peavy with a couple of home runs. Cue shot is foul, wide of first. His first at bat of the season. The White Sox have won their last 2 and 3 out of 4. They are looking for just their second 3-game winning streak of the season. They have gone 5-20 after a victory. Wells makes quick work of Peavy. 2 outs.
Hey, Len, before we get much deeper into this ball game, Andrew Kashner asked us to send along get well wishes and a big hello to a good friend of his, Austin Biggers, who was in an automobile accident down in Texas. He's at the Tier Rehab Center in Houston. And Austin, Andrew just wanted to let you know he's thinking about you.
A lot of pitchers like to file their nails out of the bullpen. One 1-0 on Juan Pierre. You're going to see that a lot.
Every time I see a pitcher filing his nails in the bullpen of the dugout, I think of Elvis Costello watching The Detective. She's filing her nails while they're dragging the leg. Pitchers are as careful about their fingernails as batters are about their bats. The pine tar and the rosin and shaving a little bit off here and adding a little bit of tape there. Everything has to be just so.
Juan Pierre had 204 hits as a Cub in 2006. You hate to walk him. So all their base runners have come after 2 are out. That's Wells' first walk. And here's Ramirez. It might give Pierre a chance to get into scoring position. Another throw by Wells. Cub fans have gotten on Juan Pierre when he has returned as a Dodger and now as a White Sox. I'm certainly not objective. Been around Juan a long time. But I think he gets booed more for how the 06 season went for the Cubs more than what he did or didn't do. He got off to a slow start that year, but by season's end he was back to the Juan Pierre a lot of people had seen for many years. And you know this, Bob, he works as hard, if not harder, than any major leaguer today. His teammates love him.
You get Juan Pierre and Marlon Byrd together on the field. They're both out there about 40 minutes before game time going through their pregame routine. I mean, a lot of guys will start the ball game and relatively fresh. When Marlon Byrd and Juan Pierre start the game, they're sweating. They're ready to play baseball when that first pitch is thrown.
One strike on Ramirez. Pierre not running. Ground ball. Starlin Castro. The flip to Terrio in time to force Pierre. And that's the inning. Bottom 2, Bird, Soriano, and Tracy coming up against Jake Peavy, with the White Sox leading 2-0.
Alfonso Soriano and Chad Tracy, the first 3 scheduled hitters.
And strike 1 from Peavy to Bird. The Cubs have now gone scoreless against the White Sox over their last 20 innings. Back-to-back shutouts to end the season series in 2009, including the makeup game on September 3rd here. "16 hits over a 7-game hitting streak for Marlin." He's the Land Rover High Performer of the Week.
Get 11 hits in 5 ball games. You got a real good chance to win our Land Rover High Performance of the Week award.
Currently leading the National League in hitting at .329. And he just got hit.
Look at Jake Peavy's delivery. Super slow-mo camera. See that stride? Pitch tailing back inside to Marlon Byrd. I'll tell you, his ability to stand on top of the plate and hang tough on inside pitches becomes a very important part of his offense. Teams that try to pitch him inside better not miss off the plate, or he'll take it off the thigh and run down to first.
It's the 8th time he's been hit. And it brings up Soriano. Takes a fastball off the inside corner. Fonzie without a hit over his last 5 games, 0 for 11. Wind continuing to howl straight out to center. Only game going on in the majors. Everything else is tonight, and everything is interleague except for the Cardinals at the Diamondbacks. One and two.
Fonzie with good career numbers against Jake Peavy. Has 6 hits and 16 at bats, and 5 of the 6 hits have gone for extra bases. 2 homers and 3 doubles.
High fly ball. Rios back on the warning track, number 300. A game-tying homer for Soriano, and a milestone homer at that. Congratulations to Alfonso Soriano. So he and Derek now both with 300.
It was a no-doubter, a tailing fastball that was supposed to be on the outside corner, ended up on the inner third of the plate, and Fonzie's done that 299 times before he knew where that one was headed.
So a 2-2 tie, and ball 1 to Chad Tracy, who's had the most plate appearances. 52 against Jake Peavy among all the Cubs on the current roster. It hasn't been pretty. Just 8 hits and 47 at bats, but there's number 9. Good to see Tracy with a base hit after a rough outing yesterday in Milwaukee. Soriano the 127th player to reach 300 home runs. Derek Lee, his teammate, was number 126 on Wednesday night. Cubs came close to doing what Paul Konerko and Jermaine Dye did. They hit their 300th in the same game. A bunt by Coy Hill, pretty hard. They're going to get one, and that's it.
Don't believe that came from the bench, Len. I think that was Coy Hill just trying to take it upon himself to get a runner into scoring position for Starlin Castro. Unfortunately, bunted it too hard back toward the mound. Jake Peavy, a very good fielder, got off the bump quickly, made his throw back to Ramirez at second base in plenty of time to get Chad Tracy.
Starlin Castro facing the White Sox for the first time. Has now given up 12 home runs on the year. Missed on a slider. 1-1. One and two now on the rookie Castro with Randy Wells on deck.
Big swing from Starlin Castro right there. I tell you, Peavy has missed his spot several times already in the early going today. That time had enough movement to get that ball underneath the bat of Starlin Castro, but A.J. Przinsky moving around quite a bit back there. Peavy hasn't hit it very often.
Another slider just off the outside. 2-2. A rough year, and it's hard to find some numbers that are positive for him. His ERA hasn't been under 5.37 all season. They'll try to turn two. Ramirez, Beckham, Konerko, two double plays coached by Jake Peavy, but Alfonso Soriano got to him. His 300th career home run tied the game at 2 apiece. post-game remarks. After every game, get behind-the-scenes access with in-depth stories, insider blogs, and exclusive video. Visit csnchicago.com, your internet home for everything Cubs. A 2-2 tie, courtesy of Alfonso Soriano with a 2-run homer. Alex Rios holds his hands lower than most in his setup. Single and a run in the first inning. Well, it's working.
Yeah, whatever he's doing is working really well this year. And you're right, he starts with his hands very, very low down by his right hip in his stance, but as Wells gets ready to deliver the pitch, you'll notice, as usual, those hands get back up there in a hitting position where most hitters end up near the shoulder.
The White Sox just kind of picking at Randy Wells. They have 5 hits. They've all been singles. Paul Konerko likes to hit home runs, and he's hit the 3rd most in the majors.
Rios' first time on base with the single back in the first inning, and again here in the 3rd. Looked like he's trying to ambush the Cubs and take off on that first pitch, first movement from Randy Wells. Fortunately, Wells has snapped a throw over there both times.
There he goes. He got a good jump. Hill's throw is in time. What a throw. It took a perfect throw to get him, and that's exactly what Coy Hill delivered.
Coy Hill got rid of it quickly. A great jump by Rios over there at first base, and nice job by Ryan Theriot to stay above the short hop. A lot of infielders put their glove at ground level and come up with the pop and then back down with the tag. That time Theriot kept his glove above the baseball, so he was going down to the base when he caught the ball, and that was the difference in that play at second base. Coy Hill has provided some offensive spark over the last week or so, but the reality is that's why he's behind the plate right now. Teams were starting to take liberties against the Cubs pitching staff when they got on base, and those stolen bases tend to lead to runs. So Lou wanted to get his best defensive catcher, his best throwing catcher behind the plate, and Coy Hill's done a nice job.
Wells kicks and fires, a swing and a miss on a change. 2-2. Randy hasn't won since April 30th. 7 winless starts, including 4 losses since. Changing up the facial hair to try to change his luck. Swing and a miss, strike 3.
A straight changeup again, that time from Randy Wells. It's been a very good pitch for him when he keeps it down in the strike zone. He's made some mistakes up with the changeup in past starts, and that has really hurt him. But a good pitch when he can keep it down in the zone.
Jones with an RBI single in the first. Home run swing came up empty. Andrew Jones is not as old as it appears, because he's been here since he was a teenager, basically. 19 years old back in '96. He's only 33. One and two. In the dirt. If Randy wins today, you're going to see that same look with the mustache in his next start. If he wins that one, we'll see it again. All about the mojo. Swing and the miss. Starting to find his groove. Got some help from his catcher, who threw out Rios in this inning. 2-2 to the bottom of the third. Receive an exclusive limited edition Ryan Theriot bobblehead doll. Compliments of Juicy Fruit. I had not seen the prototype for the bobblehead. He was not wearing a baseball uniform, was he?
No, he was in a fishing boat.
Wells bounces in a nice play by Peavy. Carlos Zambrano has a bobblehead coming up, and I guess it's the favorite activities of the Cubs players. And for Z, it's playing soccer. There's something different.
To send birthday wishes out to Harriet Marcellus from River Grove. Her husband Gary is a member of the Cubs maintenance crew here at Wrigley, and she's here at the ball game. So happy birthday, Harriet.
Also happy 21st to Andrew Caterano.
21, huh? Boy, Andrew, go get him.
Also want to send out happy birthday wishes to Cheryl Everett, celebrating a birthday this weekend. That's from husband Jeff, son Grady. Beckham lost the handle again, but this time he gets Fukudome. Last time he bobbled, and then the throw pulled Konerko off the bag. So I want to send out birthday wishes to Scott Zimmerman from wife Sue, children Allie, Peter, and Kelly.
One more, an 8th birthday. I believe it's Anthony Donald Laurie. Happy 8th.
Theriot shoots it out into right center. Jones will get it back in and keep Theriot to a long single.
Super slow-mo shot of Ryan Theriot driving that ball to the opposite field, something he does so well. Almost split the gap. Andrew Jones gets over there to cut it off on a couple of hops and hold the ride to a single. Now, we've been told that A.J. Pierzynski is throwing much better this year behind the plate. The numbers would not reflect that. Only 4 out of 31 on the season. That's a 13% success rate. Base runner 6 out of 8 against Jake Peavy on the mound.
Caught the outside corner. According to C.B. Buckner, Derrickson indicating that he didn't think it was a strike.
I don't think that's ever happened before with C.B. Buckner behind the plate.
Bounding ball foul.
I was apparently sleeping very soundly this morning, but I was told it rained quite a bit. 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. You never know it by looking at Wrigley Field. It's an absolutely beautiful condition for this game.
The sun is starting to peek through the clouds. Derrick has had peaks and valleys at the plate, but not defensively. He committed an error on opening day in Atlanta. He's gone 56 consecutive games since without one. Ontario goes. Here's Pierzynski's throw. Save. Must have been a high tag. Ozzie coming out. Call made out there by Dana DeMuth.
Without even looking at the replay, that is a tough call for the second base umpire. The throw was tailing back toward the right field side of the bag. It was hard to tell if Terrio was on the base before Beckham applied the tag. We'll get a great look at it right here. Well, I thought we'd get a great look. You're not sure if Beckham made that tag or not as Terrio came sliding by. This might be a better angle here. Might have got him on the foot, but it looked like the right foot of Ryan Terrio was in contact with the bag when the tag was applied.
Well, how many replays did we look at?
Yep.
Multiple, and we still did not have a definitive idea of the call, so we'll take it.
Unless a second base umpire is like a lizard where your eyes operate independently, how are you going to watch the base and the base runner's foot and see a tag applied to the back of the runner? You just have to put it all in the computer and make your best guess. And that time Dana DeMuth said that Ryan Terrio got on the bag before the tag was applied.
Ryan's been running a lot here lately. Big lead at second and a 2-2 to lead. That missed. A full count on Derrick with Marlon Byrd on deck.
You know, common baseball logic would tell you it's not the right time to try to steal third base, but they're basically telling Ryan Terrio, if you want to take third, go ahead. Nobody's close to him out there in the middle of the field.
All four.
This is the way you like to see it happen. We showed you Marlon Byrd's success recently. You love to see him come to the plate with runners on with a chance to do some damage. Anytime you have a guy in your lineup that's swinging the bat the way Marlon Byrd is, you hope he comes to the plate every time with runners on base.
Outside, ball one. Hit by a pitch, scored on the Soriano homer in the second. Cubs are 2-1 against the American League. They won 2 of 3 in Texas a couple of weeks ago. Swung on and missed. 92 and 98 all time. Starting today, 15 in a row against the AL. Sox, the A's, the Angels here at home, and then at Seattle and at the White Sox.
Anticipating a base hit to the outfield, and I know I am. Good arm in center field, and Alex Rios. Average arm in right field at this point of his career for Andrew Jones, and we know that Juan Pierre does not possess a good throwing arm, so expect Mike Quade to be extremely aggressive with Theriot if Bird can hit that ball to left field.
Beebe ready. Here's his 1-2, and he struck him out swinging. The Cubs lead 2. We've completed 3, and it's a 2-2 tie. Our Menards Big Lumber contest winner, Kurt Hoffman from Deerfield. So Kurt helping out the Menards grounds crew today. Brzezinski bounces up the middle. It glances off Theriot's glove, and AJ is 2 for 2. Gordon Beckham. Bob, I saw this note in today's USA Today. Wonder if you ever tried this. Arizona catcher Chris Snyder put a $5 bill in his wristband as Beckham singles behind Brzezinski, who's going to stop at second. He was struggling and he wanted to buy a hit. So he literally put a $5 bill in his uniform.
I probably would have tried that if I'd have had $5. I tried to put $1.27 in change in my wristband. Didn't work the same.
It's kind of a unique method to get out of a slump.
Whatever it takes. And I'll tell you, not that baseball players are superstitious or anything, but yeah, you try something like that and it works, and he'll have a stack of $5 bills in his locker ready for the rest of the season.
We're into the clubhouse between innings. and grabbed the fiver. And in his next plate appearance, he was intentionally walked. They didn't even want to face him. Jason Nix into left as Soriano underneath gets it. Brzezinski tagging, but eventually holding. A 3-pitch inning so far. Everybody going after that first one from Randy Wells.
And gets back to what we talked about earlier. Even though he retired Nix on that fly ball to left field, opposing hitters are very aggressive and very comfortable in that batter's box against Randy Wells. That doesn't mean he can't have success pitching over the plate and hitting the corners of the strike zone, but the more uncomfortable you can make a hitter in that batter's box, the better your chance of getting him out.
And the defensive bunt is that pitch trailed inside, and Peavy hit it foul. Getting signs from Jeff Cox, veteran third base coach. Cornerman in on the grass as Peavy shows bunt again. Pulled it back and took it for ball one. Bunts through it. They have Brzezinski caught now. Throw to second, and it hits Brzezinski. And we shouldn't have to say this, but if you're going to get in a rundown with A.J. Brzezinski, make sure that you don't allow him to run into you, because he will. He knows the rules.
Yeah, Peavy bunts right through the ball. I tell you, that was another one of those possible batter's interference if Coy Hill could have made contact. That ball hit right in Starlin Castro's glove. It looked like that should have been an out at second base.
Yeah, remember he got spiked last week. It was Berto Quintero. So he's protecting the forearm, and he may have gotten spiked again on the left hand. Ed Halber out to treat him.
We've talked about it many times in the past. It's always a tough situation for the base runner at second base. In a sacrifice situation, you want to get the biggest jump you possibly can. Well, I stand corrected. AJ's foot hit Castro's glove at the same time as the ball. That's why he wasn't able to hang on. But getting back to the base runner at second, you try to get as big a jump as possible because you want to make sure to advance if that bunt gets down on the ground. And when the batter bunts through the ball, many times that runner at second base is out there in no man's land.
Peavy's going to try with 2 strikes. And he didn't pull it back in time. That's a strikeout. Number 5 for Wells. I guess he did try to bunt at it. He kind of did a little hybrid.
Yeah, that was
that doesn't work.
A real bad hybrid. He's not getting great mileage with that hybrid.
He attempted to bunt and pulled the bat back at the same time.
Well, that seems so odd too, because my recollection of Jake Peavy from the National League was a guy that could handle the bat very well. He could get a bunt down. I know Bruce Bochy used him to play hit and run from time to time. He's just been out of that batter's box too long.
1 strike on Juan Pierre. So the first 2 guys got on via singles, but they have not moved from first and second. And even with 2 outs, Chad Tracy has to play in at third, guarding against a bunt from Pierre. Randy Wells is from Belleville, Illinois, not too far from St. Louis. Cubs got him back from the Toronto organization in April of '08 after the Blue Jays took him in the Rule 5 the previous December. He made one appearance for Toronto, which was his major league debut, before heading back to the Cubs, and they're certainly happy to have him. The kick and the 2-2 to Pierre. Bouncer up the middle. Castro fields and steps on second. And that ends the inning. 2 singles to start it. No runs. We're still tied at 2 apiece in the 4th. For this reason, you want to say Frank Thomas. That seems like the obvious choice. If that were an obvious answer, I don't think we would be asking that question.
That makes sense.
Which makes me go the other way. But then again, the AT&T trivia question writers may know that I know that they think that I think the non-obvious answer is correct. So we'll just wait and get the answer coming up.
They may be trying to trick you.
Soriano with a game-tying milestone home run in the 2nd inning. Bleachers in left center. Number 300 for Soriano. 1-2 pitch. Ouch. Was that a knee shot?
It looked like it got him down below that brace he's wearing. Oof. And naturally, the ball doesn't hit padded areas. Ed Halber is going to come out and take a look at Soriano as he tries to walk it off.
Well, I heard a thud after it hit the bat. Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. Inside of that left ankle, just below that brace that he's wearing on his shin.
I think he's all right, but, you know, you can break bones doing that. Ask Todd Hollinsworth. I think he had a couple of stress fractures in his shin from fouling balls off his legs.
Well, even the best case scenario is that it's just a bruise, but in that area, because of gravity, because he's going to spend the rest of the afternoon on his feet out there in left field or on the bases, that's going to swell up. It's going to get extremely stiff, and eventually it's going to start throbbing like a toothache.
Ramirez out, Pierre is in, and the shortstop will get it. Next Friday, June 18th, is Majestic Day here at Wrigley Field. Don't miss the action. The Cubs, for the first time ever, will host the Angels at 1:20. Throughout the game, autographed game-worn jerseys will be awarded to lucky fans in random seats. Compliments of Majestic. If it happens in baseball, it happens in Majestic.
Now, we went over this last year. Is it lucky fans in random seats or random fans in lucky seats?
I think either way would be proper.
Well, if you're in one of those random seats, you will become a lucky fan.
Chad Tracy's 2 for 2.
Swing that time by Chad Tracy, as you mentioned, had a rough afternoon yesterday up in Milwaukee, trying to make a big splash with his second go-round with the Cubs. Maybe trying to do a little bit too much. Looks much more relaxed up there at the plate today.
Coy Hill with a career-long hitting streak that has been stretched to 8. As you mentioned yesterday, not easy to do when you're not playing a lot, although he's been playing a lot more lately behind the plate. A rainbow out to Juan Pierre. Keeps his feet moving and hauls it in. Castro getting ready to hit. The batting gloves on. Taps the plate with a bat, and Peavy's going to throw to first. Way outside, ball 1.
Castro's had a little bit of a slow leak in that batting average over the last couple of weeks. I think it's just a case of teams have made an adjustment to the young man. They've seen enough of him, enough at bats to develop a game plan against him, and for the most part teams are trying to stay away. Fastballs on the outside corner or further away. That's a mistake pitch there on the inside part of the plate. He pulls the foul down that third base line. Castro has just a little bit of a step in the bucket approach from that right side of the plate. That left foot goes down the third base line just a little bit. And against a pitcher with good control who can pound away at that outside corner, he's going to end up rolling over a lot of pitches and hitting ground balls.
A 1-1 from Peavy outside. Jake Peavy trying to get his 100th career win. Caught the outside corner. 2-2 on Castro. The pitcher is on deck. Ninth career start for Peavy against the Cubs. 3-2 with a .274 lifetime. Called strike 3 to end the inning. Cubs strand 1 off to the 5th. Cubs 2, Sox 2. 9-5. If you are the 500th texter, you could win 5 $5 footlong subs from Subway. And let's answer the AT&T trivia question. More home run titles. What do you think, Rhino or the Big Hurt?
Well, I'll take the Big Hurt just since you took Rhino.
The answer, loading. 40 homers in 1990 for Rhino. Frank Thomas never did win a home run title. 521 home runs. And he will join Rhino in the Hall of Fame the minute he's eligible. Ramirez pops into shallow right. Fukudome coming in. Nobody's going to get it. Terrio actually flipped it to Fukudome. Ramirez is going to hold. A single for Alexei Ramirez. So you see against Frank Thomas in some of those years. Juan Gonzalez, Ken Griffey Jr. We talked about Cecil Fielder in Milwaukee. But that takes nothing away from an unbelievable career for Frank Thomas.
I like what I've seen first two hitters of this inning from Randy Wells. Both Ramirez and Rios, the first pitch they saw off the plate inside, making them move their feet.
And make sure you stay with us after the game. Post-game live. Frank Thomas will be among the panel to break down this one. The 1-0 to Rios inside. Just missed 2-0. With Konerko on deck. Rios was claimed on waivers last year from Toronto. And Rios is signed through 2014. He's on a 30-30 pace. He would become the first White Sox ever to have 30 homers, 30 steals if he gets there. He takes 4 bad ones. So 2 on, nobody out for cleanup man Paul Konerko.
The home runs by direction for Paul Konerko. I don't think there's any question based on those numbers. He wants to pull the ball to left field. Now, he certainly has enough power to hit the ball to right and center field, but his approach is usually to try to pull the ball to left field. And that being said, you want to work away and further away off the outside part of the plate.
Thanks to Elias for providing the home runs by direction number. Paul Konerko. 1 strike on him. A single and a strikeout. Scored a run back in the first. The sun is finally out.
Good, maybe it'll warm up a little bit.
Yeah.
Steamy day here at Wrigley today.
'84 when we started.
The wind has turned somewhat since the beginning of the ball game. It was pretty much straight out to center field as we got underway here this afternoon, but now more blowing out toward left field. A little bit of a crosswind maybe.
Started with a southwest wind, more of a south wind as we play the 5th. Long pause by Wells before his 0-1 pitch inside. 1-1. More first inning issues for Randy. 4 straight 2-out hits and 2 runs, but nothing since. He's in a jam here. 1 and 2 on Konerko. 2 on, nobody out.
Ideal double play candidate. You mentioned earlier, Konerko, one of the slower base runners in all of Major League Baseball. The problem is trying to get him to hit a ground ball. Very much a fly ball hitter. He's only grounded into 6 double plays this season.
Carlos Quentin in the lineup today. No Mark Kotze. White Sox can't use the DH this weekend. They've used 8 different guys to DH. Kotze's done it the most, 19 times, followed by Quentin. And also we mentioned Omar Vizquel away from the team, so that shortens their bench even more. Down the left field line. It's going to score at least 1. Ramirez is in. Rios is sent. He'll score standing, and Paul Konerko knocks in 2 with a double, and it's 4-2.
Randy Wells got some defensive swings on pitches on the outside corner and further away. Came back with a changeup that strayed over the inner third of the plate, and Konerko able to keep it fair down into that left field corner. Pulls all the way out there to the corner. By the time Soriano can track it down, the White Sox have tacked on a couple more.
And still nobody out. No action currently in the Cubs pen. That could change here, depending on what happens with Jones.
I really think somebody should be up. I mean, Randy Wells' history over his last 4 or 5 starts are when it goes quickly. Sometimes it's in the first inning of the ball game, but with nobody out here in the 5th, this has a chance to be a blowout inning for the White Sox if you don't stop the bleeding quickly. But at this point, nobody warming up.
A 1-1 to Jones. Now 2-1.
Good looking pitch right there. Inside corner sinker from Randy Wells. Boy, Hill held it for an extra tick, but didn't get the call from C.B. Buckner.
Low to make it 3-1. And now Larry on the phone, and we'll most likely see somebody get up. Who is it going to be? Lester Strode? Right-hander Jeff Stevens. Ground ball, Chad Tracy. Low throw dug out by Derek Lee. White Sox have led twice by 2 runs. While Konerko giving them their latest advantage with a 2-run double. In the dirt, ball 1. So that remains intact. Bounced foul. Thought the Cubs might make up some ground on this last road trip, playing 3 teams below them in the standings. Didn't work out that way. They lost 2 of 3 in Pittsburgh, Houston, and Milwaukee. And so now you'd like to get on a roll at home with the next 9 here at Wrigley Field. High fly ball, deep center. Bird back on this one, off the wall. He just missed a homer. Konerko is going to score, and Krasinski has a double to make it 5-2. Krasinski's 3 for 3 on the afternoon.
Belt high out over the plate, right where every hitter would ask for it if they had an opportunity, with the runner on base, and ball just missed the basket, hit high off the vines out there in straightaway center field. And once again, Paul Konerko, even though he does not run well, scores easily.
Still only 1 out. Beckham will dig in. Upstairs. Tommy Skinner caught it.
Had him
battled Dave Cella.
Had him positioned perfectly. That's because of the spray charts. That's why we put our cameras where we do.
A good box out move.
Uh-oh. Another chance.
Yeah, Dave got that one. And of course, Dave proceeds to flip it to a couple fans who both lost their beverage.
Yeah.
Next round's on you, Dave. Swing and a miss, strike 3.
Last one kind of bounced off a fan, rolled over there, and it was Johnny on the spot to pick it up. But Dave knows what he's supposed to do with that ball, right?
Give it to a kid.
Give it to a kid.
Well, she ended up with it. They're going to walk Nix with Peavy on deck. Here's ball 4.
Randy Wells got to make his best pitch of the game right here to Jake Peavy. Granted, it's the opposing pitcher. He didn't look particularly comfortable in either of his first 2 at-bats of this game, but anybody with a bat in their hands is dangerous, and got to get Peavy right here.
This will be it for Wells, most likely. His spot due up to lead off the bottom of the 5th, and his team now trailing by 3. Terrio ranging over, and the throw to Lee is in time. The White Sox get the lead again. Couple of doubles. Konerko knocking in 2. Przinsky adding insurance, and it's 5-2 White Sox. Year. I think Gordon Beckham and Randy Wells, some of those types of questions are being asked this summer.
Personally, I never really believed in a sophomore slump. I think it's just, as we talk all the time, a matter of adjustments. Teams get much more advanced scouting. They get the videotape. They have a better idea of either how to get a hitter out or how to attack an opposing pitcher. And when you've had success your freshman year in the big leagues, it's hard to go against the things that you've done well from the year before. So you try to stick with the same program, try to stick with the same patterns, and unfortunately the other team is ready for it in year 2.
And as we theorized, Randy is out. Mike Fontenot will pinch hit. And he looks at ball 1. Outside corner. Cubs bullpen will get the rest of the day. Wells gave up a season high tying 10 hits and 5 earned runs. Randy's ERA has now ballooned to 5.15. Didn't mean to. And he's going to ground out to the pitcher. Fans text dunks to B-Hawks. That's 242-957 to join Blackhawks Mobile and be entered to win a puck signed by Blackhawks defenseman and 2010 Norris Trophy finalist Duncan Keith. That's dunks to 242-957. Or visit ChicagoBlackhawks.com. Everybody, including Duncan Keith, I mean, just elated. They've won the Stanley Cup. They're the champs. You had to feel like in the back of his mind he thought, oh man, the season ends. I'm going to spend the rest of the summer at the dentist.
I'll I'll tell you what, I guarantee if you ask every player on the Blackhawks, they would gladly trade 7 for another opportunity to win a second Stanley Cup.
Sure. A lot of milkshakes for Duncan the rest of the summer.
I'll have the soup.
The 0-2 bounced up there. Fukudome still alive. Carlos Silva tomorrow will try to improve to 9-0. Well, if he and Mark Burley are on their games, there'll be a lot of strikes. Swing and a miss, strike 3.
Slider from Peavy. See clearly how far out in front of that pitch Fukudome was. Obviously looking for something hard over the plate, but got the off-speed slider and was way out in front.
Terrio showed bunt and took ball 1. We haven't seen too many fastballs faster than that one in 91 from Jake Peavy. Maybe a 92 here or there. That one in 93. In his career, his fastball's been just under 92. That's on the average, which means you might see a 93, 94, maybe 95, but also an 88, 89. Well, today he's been right around 89 to 91, and he's getting outs. That's his first 1-2-3 frame. He has a 5-2 lead after 5. About his desire to end the World Series drought, plus going public with his private life. Inside Look with Ryan Dempster coming up tonight at 5 on Comcast Sportsnet. Fans' best friend. Cubs go into the bullpen. Right-hander Jeff Stevens.
He has been really good against right-handed hitters. He's been really good against everybody, but especially the right-handers with that tailing fastball inside and then the hard slider and curveball.
Inside to Juan Pierre. Stevens with an inning and a third yesterday in Milwaukee. He came in with the bases loaded and walked Ryan Braun to force in a run, but then retired 4 in a row after that. Pierre trying to slug bunt. He showed bunt, then was going to try to either hit it over or bounce it over Chad Tracy.
Yeah, the idea is to show bunt, draw the third baseman in, and then either try to slap it past him or hit a slow ground ball by him toward the hole at shortstop. And with Pierre's speed, if he's able to do that, he's probably going to beat it out. We mentioned at the top of the show, Omar Vizquel not with the ball club, and he's a guy that uses that slug bunt as well. Imagine he and Juan Pierre have practiced that very early in the afternoon over at U.S. Cellular Field.
Bouncer to Derek Lee. Takes it by himself.
And then while we have a moment, I want to thank Alan and Roberta Glickman for their very thoughtful and heartfelt card that they sent to me last week. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Ramirez started the 3-run fifth with a base hit and would score on the Paul Konerko 2-run double. Ball to Terrio, moving to his right. No problem. Watch Comcast Sportsnet Cubs game replays on demand with Xfinity TV from Comcast. Don't miss the action. Call 1-800-XFINITY today. Big day for Rios. He's been on 3 times. He has scored twice. Tracy can't quite get it. And Rios has his 3rd knock.
We show you how Rios holds his hands so low as you get a look at Chad Tracy in super slow-mo trying to cover that ground as quickly as possible. That ball was hit too hard, shot by him into left field. You see how low the hands are now. He does get them up into a better hitting position, but usually when guys carry their hands so low, you try to attack them at the top of the strike zone, thinking that they're going to have a hard time getting on top of a high pitch. However, Alex Rios has gotten some pitches down there around the knees that he could handle in this game today.
That's a strike. Konerko with the big hit today, a 2-run double, giving them their current lead, or at least giving them the edge 4-2. They would add another in that 5th inning. Runner goes, and the throw or the pitch gets behind Coy Hill, who can't make a throw. That'll be a stolen base for Rios, who was caught back in the 3rd.
That was going to be an extremely tough pitch to handle, even if Coy Hill comes up with it cleanly. Anytime you have to reach to your left as a catcher, as Coy does on that pitch that's down and into Konerko, it's very tough to get those shoulders closed and make a quick throw to second base. Ball hit in the dirt and spliced some of it up in the eye of C.B. Buckner, the home plate umpire.
Ed Halber out to apply some eye drops. The home plate umpire in particular needs to see to call those balls and strikes.
Well, thanks for putting it on a tee for me, partner, but I'm not going to go there. I was waiting. Getting back to that stolen base by Rios and the pitch that Coy Hill had to work with. If catchers had their druthers, you would always get a high pitch on the right side of your body when that runner is throwing. It really allows you to start your movement before the ball even gets to the plate. You can close that front shoulder, start to turn your body, start to come up out of your crouch, so as you receive the ball, you're already in a great throwing position. When the pitch is on the left side of your body, it becomes much more difficult to do all the mechanical things you need to do to get that ball to second base in good shape.
Stevens with a 1-2. Missed on a curveball. Eleven hits for the White Sox. The Cubs have only 4. One was a 2-run homer by Alfonso Soriano, the 300th of his career. Fastball missed. To fill up the count at 3-2. Here it is, and Konerko grounds to Chad Tracy, who bobbles, but still has time to get the out at first. So they strand Rios in scoring position. Bottom 6, still 5-2 White Sox. Derek Lee starting the Cubs 6th against right-hander Jake Peavy. He's trying to even his record at 5-5 and get his 100th career win. Left-hander James Russell is up. Derek's had a problem with C.B. Buckner's strike zone all day.
Brzezinski slides out onto the outside corner, reaches across his body a little bit to receive that, either a cutter or a little slider.
Swing and a miss. Derek's hold at bat changed. A 1-1 becomes a 1-2. And he swings and misses at strike 3. Bob, guys are not always right when they argue a call. Some guys will go back and look and find out that the umpire was right. In this case, I think Derek had a complaint.
I think you're right. And you'll notice also that when players are struggling offensively, that's when they tend to disagree with the home plate umpire more often. Basically because your mechanics are messed up at the plate. You're not always seeing the pitch all the way into the hitting zone. And sometimes pitches that look like they're several inches off the corner are actually good pitches. But I agree with you on that one, the D lead.
The 0-1 to Bird. Base hit. Hitting streak continues. Now at 8.
Sunday, June 9th, or rather Saturday, June 19th is Culver's Day at Wrigley Field as the Cubs take on the Angels at 12:05. Be sure to arrive early. The first 10,000 fans will receive a Cubs hat. Compliments of Culver's. Get Culverized.
Use some right now. Go down well.
Get a big bucket of it, put my feet in it. Whew. Eat it fast, though, partner. It'll melt today. Of course, we never have any problem eating ice cream fast.
It's appropriate that Bill Melton is part of our post-game coverage today. Low and outside, 2-0. Kind of feel like the Cubs are going to need a couple of big blasts. Trailing by 3. Soriano's already hit 1. Peavy's going to try to stay away from him. Not let him get something he could turn on. And the wind blowing out. Turns on that one, but he lines out to the shortstop, Ramirez.
As this game has progressed, Peavy has pitched inside less and less. Some of that has to do with the lead in the ball game, and as you mentioned, he's trying to keep the ball in the ballpark, and the easiest way to do that is just stay on that outer part of the plate. His command has gotten better. He's more consistently hit his spots on the outside, but that time made a mistake on Soriano.
Good chance you'll see Jeff Baker at third tomorrow against the left-hander Mark Burley. Tracy making his second straight start. Aramis Ramirez is on the disabled list with a left thumb contusion. Inside. 2 balls, no strikes. Later on tonight, the Cardinals will have Jaime Garcia with his 1.47 ERA as he tries to play the stopper there at Arizona. Cardinals have lost 4 in a row. Cincinnati's hosting Kansas City tonight. Luke Pochaver, a right-hander for KC, against Bronson Arroyo. Cincinnati leading St. Louis by a game and a half, and the Cubs by 7.5 in the NL Central. 3-1 to Tracy.
You look at the National League Central, it's not hard to figure out where Cincinnati has gotten fat against their own division. They're 500 against the East at 6-6. They're 500 against the West at 5-5. 22-14 against the Central.
The Brewers will have Chris Narveson against former Cub Rich Harden as Milwaukee hosts Texas. Popped up by Tracy. This is Juan Pierre in left center, and that's it for the Cubs in the 6th. Bird stranded. On to the 7th. Cubs trail the White Sox by 3. And highlights that sports night every night at 6:30, 10, 10:30, and midnight. Breaking news, highlights, and exclusive interviews with the athletes you care about. Tune in to Sports Night every night at 6:30, 10, 10:30, and midnight. Right here on Comcast Sportsnet, fans' best friend. (5-2). The White Sox lead the Cubs as we begin the 7th. Huge crowd as always as we kick off the weekend. Andrew Jones pops up against Jeff Stevens, and Castro backpedaling, able to put it away. There's no place Ernie Banks spends more time than at Harry Carey's Italian Steakhouse. For Chicago's best steaks, visit Harry Carey's, the official home plate of the Chicago Cubs. In Chicago, Rosemont or Lombard. Call 773-HOLY-COW or visit harrycareys.com for reservations. Grammy-winning jazz vocalist and Chicago native Kurt Elling, who did a great job with the national anthem. He'll conduct the 7th-inning stretch. The 0-1 to Przinsky, that misses. He's 3 for 3. Drilled deep right center for Przinsky, and it's gone. A home run. What a day he's had. He is a triple shy of the cycle. 4 hits and 3 RBIs. He always seems to step up in these crosstown series.
Some guys thrive when it gets a little edgy, and this series over the past number of years has been real edgy, and A.J. Przinsky loves it when it gets like that. Boy, that is right in his wheelhouse. Bottom of the knees, middle of the plate, down there where he can golf that ball and would just get it up into the front row in right field.
He now has 16 RBIs in his last 11 games in this ballpark.
Wow. Throwing him too many strikes. He's only drawn 6 base on balls all season. He's also only struck out 12 times, but a guy with those kind of numbers, he's going to put the ball in play, so don't give him a pitch where he can drop the barrel on it and hit it hard. Let him put it in play weakly by working around the edges. And I'm sure that's what Jeff Stevens was trying to do, but left it down over the heart of the plate.
Beckham waves at strike 3.
Curveball that time from Jeff Stevens. A lot of movement, off speed enough to get Beckham out front. He swings over the top.
Nix 0 for 2 with an intentional walk. Fly to the warning track in the 2nd. This will be the final inning for Stevens. Pitcher spot due up 3rd in the bottom of this inning. Jeff came on in the 6th. A rainbow to short left. Soriano is in, and that's the inning. Time to sing the stretch with Kurt Elling.
Grammy-winning jazz vocalist Kurt Elling. All right, for the greatest baseball fans in the world, and for the Chicago Blackhawks, the world champions, let me hear ya. A 1, a 2, a 3. Take me out to the ballgame. Take me out to the pound. Buy me some peanuts and crackers. Tiger Jack. I don't care if I never get back for this fruit. It's a shame, for it's 1, 2, 3 strikes you're out at the old ball pit.
Leading off against White Sox starter Jake Peavy, whose only blemish is the 2-run homer. Alfonso Soriano, of course, swings at the first pitch. Juan Pierre with the catch and the out. Grammy-winning jazz vocalist Kurt Elling with a perfect rendition of both the national anthem and the 7th inning stretch. See, Bob, he can actually sing. Most of our guests can't.
I've been practicing for years for this very day. This very day.
Was it everything you had hoped it would be?
Man, it's so much more fun even than I could have imagined. I just love it. I'm having the time of my life.
Starlin Castro at the plate.
Well, most of our guests up here in the booth, even if they're singers, they get a little stage fright when they look out and see 40,000 people, but you had it well under control today.
These are the people.
Yep.
We need to see those Cubs getting some hits, though.
Congrats on your Grammy.
Thank you.
Best jazz vocal album.
Thank you. It's a little bit in the making. Went through a bunch of nominations before it finally came through. It's a relief. It's a relief to finally have something on the table.
The anthem today was a little different. And it wasn't anything you did or didn't do. One hopper to Beckham, but the crowd here got into the Blackhawks United Center field and started cheering very early on in the song.
If I would have known it was going to go that way, I would have amped it up. I would have modulated up. I could have gone a half step, a whole step. Let's keep going. But I figured, it's the anthem. Play it straight. Sing in tune. Try not to trip.
Yeah, that's one song you probably, whatever your game plan is, you probably should stick to it, right?
Yep. Everybody knows how it's supposed to go.
Here's Tyler Colvin, 2 out. And nobody on as Peavy quickly getting the first 2 outs. No better place to be than here. On a day like this, we heard Dave Kaplan say an estimated 2 million fans were downtown today to honor the Blackhawks. And well over 40,000 here at Wrigley today. Out into the gap in left center and over Rios. And Colvin has a stand-up double. So the inning's still alive for Fukudome.
What a great view you guys have. This is incredible.
It's not bad. So do you want to give away your allegiance? You're wearing a Cubs uniform.
Well, I should say, my mom is at home. My pop is at home in Rockford, Illinois. And she introduced me to the Cubs. Early on, she always had the game on. We were always watching Dave Kingman play a variety of possibilities out on the field. And we always had a great time watching it together. We always had it on in the background. Keith Moreland and the like. that's really the era of my childhood. And,
sure.
So coming in here today, well, I've been to the park a number of times since then, but of course this is a spectacular special day for me. I just want to see the Cubs, get a win out of this one.
Well, it is getting late. Nice to at least push in.
Yeah, it'd be nice
Tyler
to
Coleman
get a little,
here.
get a little tighten it up, guys.
One and one on Fukudome. The Cubs with 6 hits. The White Sox have 12. They've hit the ball all over the diamond. That missed. 2-1 to count.
With these conditions here today, though, you're one bad pitch away from a tight game, from a possible tie game eventually. Wind continues to howl out to center field. Everybody that steps on that mound in the middle of the field is working with a very short leash with these conditions.
3-1 the count. Ryan Theriot would hit next, and the wind just blowing as hard as it's really blown all day. Pierre should get this one. I'll go out and get it. Dedicated to you, Kurt Elling sings the music of Coltrane and Hartman. Kurt, thanks so much for the time. Nicely done today.
Thank you so much. Right on, Cats.
All right. Nice job.
A homer by Przinsky. And Jake Peavy is done. After 7 innings of a 2-run, 6-hit ball. Carlos Quentin will bat for him. There's Patrick Kane. And he's clean shaven. Although it looks like he's still got the mullet working. The Stanley Cup champ. They're asking that person in front of him. Move a little to the left. I can't see the game. It's on a rooftop today.
Take that walk off the top of your head so I can see what's going on.
A strike on Carlos Quentin. Had his big year a couple of years ago. Battled foot problems last year. A towering fly ball. Back of the bleachers, gone. Almost to Waveland. Quentin got all of that one.
bit of it and knew it. Quentin reminds me so much of a younger Jose Canseco, just with his style of hitting out of that exaggerated crouch. Most power hitters don't hit out of an exaggerated crouch, but Quentin feels like he sees the ball much better with that flex in his knees and the bend at the waist, and really unloaded on that one.
Two 2-0 to Juan Pierre. 7-2 White Sox. A little too low. 3-0. There's a strike. 3-1. Bob, your thoughts on Jake Peavy today? He's had a handful of games in which he's gone 7 or 8 and has allowed 2 or fewer, but they've been few and far between for him this season.
He was just good enough today. I thought his command got better as the game went on. His stuff was about what I expected from Jake Peavy. Worked his fastball both directions, had a good slider for most of the afternoon, and did what you would expect from a veteran starting pitcher. He battled, he kept his team in the ball game, and fortunately for him, his offense provided him with a lot of support today.
I think run support is very underrated. Ultimately, it's how you pitch over the long haul, but it's just nice to get some help.
It just changes your mental approach as a pitcher. If you've got a lead in a ball game of 3, 4, 5 runs, you don't feel like you have to be as fine. You don't feel like every pitch has to be perfect. You feel like you've got a little bit of leeway to make a mistake from time to time, and when you're throwing free and easy and not worrying about being too fine, that's usually when your stuff is the best. You start short-arming a little bit, trying to guide the ball up there to a good spot, and that's when mistakes are made.
Alexei Ramirez, he's rail thin. Pierre takes off, and he'll get second easily. 24th steal for Juan Pierre. Came in tied for first in the AL. Atop the stolen base leaderboard. Alexei Ramirez listed at 6'2", 170. I think that's after 3 big meals. 170.
In a pocket full of rocks. Yeah, he is blade thin. You know what, though? He generates a lot of bat speed through that hitting zone. When he's right at the plate, he has considerable pop in that bat. A teammate of a similar build back in my playing days, and I used to joke with him that if he'd stick out his tongue, he'd look like a zipper. With some tomato juice, he'd look like a thermometer.
Almost got him in the foot. 2-2.
Breaking ball that Russell was hoping Ramirez would swing over the top of. He just pushed it too far inside. Ramirez has to run out of that batter's box to get out of the way.
Lofted down the left field line. This is trouble. It's fair. Pierre will trot home, and Ramirez has an easy double. So they're pulling away. It's 8-2.
Another breaking ball, this time over the heart of the plate, and Ramirez got just enough of it, floated it out there in left field toward the line. Well, got to it in good shape and then stumbled against the side wall a little bit. No chance for a play on Ramirez at second base there.
Bottom of the zone, a strike to Rios, participating in this Cubs-Sox series for the first time, and he's had a big day. Russell has his sign from Hill, and his 1-1. Swing and a miss. Good matchup in Minnesota tonight. Braves and Twins. Tim Hudson against Francisco Liriano. Hudson at 6-1. Liriano 5-3 with a 3.10. Ubaldo Jimenez will go for his 12th win tonight as the Rockies host Ricky Romero and the Blue Jays. It's Tony Pena up for the White Sox. Another towering blast. Way out. This one finds Waveland. Alex Rios with a 2-run shot. 10-2. And the wind really kicking up, but quite honestly, the 2 homers we've seen in this inning probably would have been hit with the wind blowing in.
Yeah, I think that one, the wind just took it from the back of the bleachers out onto Waveland Avenue. That ball was absolutely crushed. Woo.
So Bob Howery coming on, a rare bad outing for lefty James Russell. It's the Lexus Pursuing Perfection call to the pin. Now 10-2 White Sox. There's Bob Howry, who's been on both sides of this crosstown series. Former member of the White Sox. And he took the loss yesterday in Milwaukee. Key mistake for him was the leadoff walk in the 10th. Carlos Gomez, who would eventually come around and score the game-winning run. That run was unearned. 4 runs and still nobody out here in the White Sox 8th. Howry's 3-0 taken all the way. Is that one of those unwritten rules, Bob? You don't swing at a 3-0 pitch up 8, or
yeah, I mean,
can you?
You know, obviously, anytime you're talking about an unwritten rule, there's two sides to the story, and for everybody that thinks you should take the 3-0 pitch, there's a number of people that think you should be allowed to swing at that 3-0 pitch. But I think throughout the history of the game, with an 8-run lead in the 8th inning, it's probably a good idea to take that 3-0 pitch.
Or you may take ball 4 in the ribs if you miss the 3-0.
Yeah. That has been known to happen. I mean, you can't stop playing as an offense, but there are certain times where it's considered to be maybe a little excessive, maybe a little showing up the opposing team, trying to add on a 3-0 pitch.
It's foul. We started 21 minutes late because of the threat of rain, which pushed back the starting pitcher's warm-up routine. Got a light sprinkle in the early innings, but nothing since. We've seen the sun off and on today. The lights have been on throughout, and the wind has been blowing out throughout this game. Birds circling back in to retire Konerko. We tend to come back to similar themes in discussing the Cubs' problems here lately. Lou talked about more accountability in terms of the lineup construction, going with the matchups, playing guys on that day he feels gives the team the best chance to win, meaning some everyday players might not play as much if they're not as productive. Roy Hill making some pretty strong comments about the way yesterday's game played out. After a while, though, Bob, how much talking can you do?
Well, I think Lou's already done more talking than he ever thought he was going to have to with this ball club. I mean, if all it took were words, every manager would have a meeting every day right before the ball game started at some point, and I think we passed that point a long time ago. It's up to the players to go out on the field and produce. And that doesn't mean just hit home runs and steal bases and throw shutouts. You got to play the game the right way every day, every play. That's why I mentioned before the ball game, I agree 100% with Coy Hill's comments. You can't afford to take off an at-bat or take off an inning. Every game, every pitch, every play should command your full attention and focus. And granted, it's not easy when the season's not going well for the team, the season's not going well for you as an individual, but that's what really separates the guys who find themselves eventually on winning ball clubs and guys who find themselves looking up wondering what in the heck happened to my career. It ended so quickly. I thought we were going to go to the World Series every year. We never made it.
3-2 on Andrew Jones. Stance looks a little different, doesn't it?
Yeah, I can't quite put my finger on it. You know, we haven't seen Andrew Jones since spring training, but he's a little more upright, possibly.
Might have been a little more spread out, maybe, too. Something's different.
Yeah, kind of opened up with that front foot a little.
Club foul. The everyday baseball schedule, it can be good and it can be bad. It can be good when you're struggling, knowing that we could turn it around tomorrow as Howery strikes out Jones. But when you are struggling and you can't turn it around, all of a sudden losses start to pile up. Before you know it, you look at your record and you go, what happened? We're 11 games out. Cubs coming in 7.5 back, which is manageable. They were able to erase that in Lou's first season, but it's more uncommon than common to do that. It's not something you expect to do every year.
And I think that's why Lou had his meetings with various players in Milwaukee to try to impart a sense of urgency. You hear the same quotes from teams that are struggling early in the season. We got a long way to go. We got a long way to go. No reason to worry yet. We've got a long way to go. And that's true to a certain extent, but when there's no consistent improvement, maybe you start bad, but you start to figure things out. You start to play better defense. Bullpen gets sorted out. Guys get their roles down there, and things start to go in the right direction. Well, yeah, then maybe you feel okay about it. But when you keep saying it's early, it's early, it's early, and you continue to make the same mistakes and lose ball games in the same fashion, well, it's not early anymore.
One and one on Przinsky, who's had a perfect day at the plate. 4 hits, 2 singles, a double, and a home run, and he pops it up into right. Fukudome battling the sun a little bit, but he's got the shades on today, and Przinsky retired for the first time. They get 4 more to add to their big lead. It's 10-2 to the bottom of the 8th. Hits. Right-hander Tony Pena against Ryan Theriot. Fastball at 95. Good hop on that heat. 1 strike. giving up a lot of hits. 7 to lefties. First batter's just 3 for 19 against him.
Well, he is your prototypical power arm late in a ball game. Fastball sits in the mid to upper 90s, a slider in the mid to upper 80s. Not going to see any off-speed pitches.
Two and two. Terrio tried to sell it. C.D. Buckner called it a strike.
You know, Len, as futile as this may sound, right now the rallying cry in the Cubs dugout should be, let's give them a finish. Maybe you don't come back and tie the game. Maybe you don't come back at all. But give them a finish. String together some good at-bats. Try to make something happen. Put a few more runs on the board. And feel better about yourself going into tomorrow's ball game. Let's just give them a finish here. Make them earn it.
That'll get down for Terrio. His second hit.
I mean, the other alternative is to say, let's get this thing over with quickly and come back and try again tomorrow. And when that happens, it's time for some serious changes. Terrio just poking that ball out into shallow center field in front of Alex Rios. He's had himself a pretty good day.
Up the middle, base hit. That's rolled into center for Derek. So the first two have reached here in the 8th.
What a difference it makes against any offense when you bring a pitcher into the game that throws no off-speed pitches. Everything is going to be hard, hard, hard. And with a big lead, Tony Pena is just trying to throw strikes right now. We've seen this happen to some of the Cubs relievers from time to time with a big lead. You just want to throw strikes, let your defense work behind you, and some of those base hits start to find holes. But the offense can take more aggressive swings against a guy who's not likely to change speeds on you.
Marlon Byrd with 2 on and nobody out, and a called strike. Left-hander Tom Gorzolani getting ready, and it appears for the night. The only runs the Cubs have are courtesy of Alfonso Soriano, who hit his 300th home run, a 2-run shot in the second. That's been it. And this will take Konerko right to first base. So they get Byrd. Williams out of the bullpen. And normally in this spot, Bob, Soriano is just trying to make good contact, maybe hit a fly ball, but get that runner in from third on at least a sac fly. That's not the case here. Down 8, a walk is better than a sac fly. Reaching base is absolutely the #1 priority in this spot.
Absolutely.
And I think it's natural with the 2 in scoring position to think RBI first. Ground ball, and it gets right under Nix. And the Cubs will get 2 as Soriano will motor into second. That looked to be a routine ground ball. And it's 10-4.
Yeah, Pena hung a breaking ball on the inside part of the plate. Nix tries to play it to the backhand side, just doesn't get the glove down to the ground. Infielders are taught low to high. It's always easier to make the adjustment coming up on the ball than trying to go down on it, and that time he just didn't get his glove down to the ground.
Still waiting for the call from the press box. It's an error. That's the right call. Error on Nix, and that's it for Pena. Williams coming in with Chad Tracy due up 10-4 Sox. The Lexus pursuing perfection. Call to the pen. Cubs out of Lamar University in 1997. Missed his first pro season in the Cubs organization after shoulder surgery. Later missed 2 seasons after Tommy John. He's had to battle some arm problems in his career. And he's with his 4th major league team, Seattle, San Diego, Colorado, and now the White Sox. Jeff Baker batting for Chad Tracy, and he'll take a strike. An error by Jason Nix, allowing 2 runs to score to make it 10-4. And again, Baker's not trying to move the runner up, not necessarily trying to knock him in. He's just trying to keep that line moving. Big leg kick and the 1-2. Curveball low.
I've seen a lot of Williams this year, but just based on the numbers, I would suggest to the Cubs hitters that they be extremely patient. 21 walks in 23 1/3 innings pitched so far this season.
Base hit, left field. Soriano is going to be sent by Mike Quade, and Juan Pierre's is going to get it back into second. An RBI hit for Baker off the bench, 10-5.
Give him a finish. Jeff Baker off the bench with a ringing single into left field. Pierre actually backed up on that ball to play the big second hop, and that gave Soriano plenty of time to round third base and score easily.
He's done a nice job in the pinch. It's his 5th hit in 8 at-bats. Coy Hill bounces to third. They'll try to go around the horn, and they do. 5-4-3, third double play turned by the White Sox. The Cubs get 3. We'll head to the 9th. It's 10-5 as we check out the Seagulls in slow-mo. CSN Plus, the White Sox will battle the Pirates in Pittsburgh. And at 7 on Comcast Sportsnet, the Cubs get a visit from the Oakland A's. Sox Pirates, Cubs A's Tuesday night on Comcast Sportsnet. Fans' best friend. And I believe we will see Dallas Braden on Tuesday, the man who threw a perfect game earlier this season. Baker into play third after pinch hitting for Chad Tracy, and left-hander Tom Gorzolani, I'm sure excited to be a part of this crosstown series. A Chicago area native. Gordon Beckham sprays it foul off to the right. One on a struggling Beckham. Originally a shortstop. Was at third last year. He's now at second base. Ozzie has stuck by him. .175 at bats since his last home run. As he grounds out. I think Nix was happy to get a ground ball and turn a 5-4-3 double play.
You hit it right on the head. Good defenders, after making an error, they want that next ball to be hit to them so they can atone for their mistakes. Personally, I never felt that way.
I know in one inning you didn't feel that way.
There was nowhere to hide. Please don't hit it to me.
No, what you wanted was a chance to win the game with a home run.
Well, I had a better chance of doing it with my bat than my glove. Let's just put it that way.
Swing and a miss at a change. Pop up right side. Eric Lee drifting over into Ryan Terrio's territory, but the taller guy usually makes a catch. And Brent Lillibridge. Little hit for Williams. None of the runs Tony Pena gave up was considered unearned in that 8th inning. Inside corner fastball strike. Lillibridge called up from AAA on June 1st. 4 homers and a .270 average at AAA in 48 games.
A pinch hit 3-run homer a couple of days ago against the Tigers. His first home run since July of '08.
He came over in the Javier Vasquez deal in December of '08. 2-2. Last year, was it spring training? Brent Lillibridge, Chris Getz, Jason Nix were all in that second base mix. All got sorted out this year when Becca moved to second to make way for Mark Tian at third. Tian currently on the DL with a fractured right middle finger. Slicing away from Fukudome, it's going to land fair, and Lillibridge has a double. So they're pinch hitters today, Quentin and Lillibridge, each with an extra base hit. Quentin with a homer and Lillibridge with a double.
Looked like Lillibridge wasn't sure that ball was going to stay fair down the right field line. A slicing, looping liner just inside the foul line.
Pitcher and catcher will get together. I noticed, Bob, in the White Sox game notes, Mark Tian's injury listed as a fractured right third finger. Maybe middle finger is a little too spicy for the White Sox media relations department. I think it's a little more direct. You got your thumb, your index, your middle, your ring, and your pinky. That's it, right?
Pretty simple.
We don't need to do any math. Third finger, you got to start counting.
And which side do you start from?
Well, either side. You go from both sides.
Oh, I guess
you're going to end up in the third, which is the middle. And that's stuff you only get when it's 10-5.
That's right.
I've never heard that. Third finger.
Watch out. Bird coming right into your living room. Get hit in the helmet one time. A teammate of mine when I was with the Giants, and the trainer came out, and the old cliche question, how many fingers am I holding up? And the guy said 12. Come on with me, we're going to the training room.
Well, I guess if he was holding one on one hand and two on the other, it might look like 12. 3-2 to Pierre.
And really, is the thumb technically a finger?
Well, I think for the purposes of counting, yes. But for everybody out there, this is a golden rule. Don't give anybody the third finger.
That's right.
Bottom 9, 10-5 White Sox.
Good time here at Wrigley to come out to watch the minor leaguers from the Peoria Chiefs. Scott Linebrink takes over to finish it up here for the White Sox. Chiefs had 5 players named to the Midwest League All-Star game. Hak-Ju Lee, the shortstop, Matt Serta, an infielder, Logan Watkins, an infielder, Trey McNutt, a right-handed pitcher, and James Leverton, a left-handed pitcher. Congratulations to all those gentlemen.
1-1 on Starlin Castro. No hits in 3 tries. Xavier Nady's going to bat next in the pitcher's spot. 1-2. Well, you talked about goals here in the last couple of innings. Well, making them earn it. It would be nice to make them get their closer up. Why not?
Absolutely. You got 2 more games to go in this series after today. If you can force them to get into that bullpen, and big Bobby Jenks out there on the mound may take away his effectiveness in future outings against the Cubs.
No need right now with a 5-run lead. Managers start to get a little itchy if you have any sort of traffic on the bases, no matter what the score is. We talk about slam range. Cubs are out of slam range at the moment. Stay tuned. We have post-game live coming up. Another foul by Castro. I don't know if you have dinner plans tonight, partner, but if you don't, you might want to make your reservations right after the game ends. I have a feeling downtown's going to be pretty busy tonight. A lot going on here in Chicago, which is a good thing. A lot of Hawks fans celebrating.
They've been doing so since very early this morning.
Cubs in socks here on the north side. Ball 4, leadoff walk. Although I know you can walk into most places without a res, and all you have to say is, "Don't you know who I am?"
Doesn't even work as a drive through. Crying out loud.
I know who you are.
We still don't have a table.
Bill Cowher? Oh, sure, come on. Oh, Bob Brindley. No, I'm sorry, we don't have anything for 2 hours.
He might be here a while. Give him a finish. Give the Sox a finish here.
Castro will take second as Linebrink misses. Kozinski was not going to throw anyway. Don Cooper is going to come out. No steal for Castro. There you go. All it took was one runner, a little wildness from Linebrink to get Bobby Jenks up. Nady knocked in 3 yesterday, but made the game-ending throwing error. Trying to get Carlos Gomez at third. He overthrew Coy Hill, and Gomez scored easily to end it. 1-2. Check down at first. Doug Eddings said he held up.
Hard slider down low and away from Linebrink. He was able to check the swing, stay alive in the at bat here.
That's one out as Nady strikes out.
Pure four-seam fastball on the outside corner. Maybe looking to do some damage toward left field. Couldn't quite get out there and hook that fastball.
Castro walked to start the inning, then took second on defensive indifference. 80 struck out. Now a 1-1 count to Kosuke. Cubs in danger of dropping to 7 games under 500, which would tie their low water mark for the year. We're 15-22. They have not yet been over 500 all season. Three and one. Ball 4. Ghazi wants to know if his closer's ready. If he is, he's going to make the change. Well, he couldn't get out of the dugout fast enough. So that's it for Linebrink. The Lexus pursuing perfection. Call to the pin, even up 5. Ozzy's going to go with Bobby Jenks. We'll be back. A save situation for Bobby Jenks. 2 on and 1 out. A 5-run White Sox lead. He got the save yesterday, a scoreless inning against Detroit.
Bobby Jenks has been pretty good lately. He's converted his last 5 straight save opportunities. However, as you mentioned, not a save opportunity today. His ERA in save situations is .270. In situations otherwise, it's .675, which is not uncommon for a closer. For whatever reason, closers just don't seem to do as well when they're just getting an inning of work.
Terrio grounds up the middle. Jenks blocks it and throws to first for the out. So it's up to Derek Lee. Cubs really have not taken advantage of this wind like the Sox have in the late innings. It is blowing a lot harder now than it was when we started. We've seen 3 long home runs from the Sox in the final 3 innings. Cubs with the Soriano homer in the second. One and one. Well, the Cubs have to look at it. They want to get Soriano to the plate. If they do, he represents the tying run. Kicks away from Przinsky. Nobody taking a chance in this spot. Down 5.
No, this is one of those. You better be 100% sure you can advance.
Maybe even more than that.
Maybe even more than that. Bobby Jenks with boot cut pant uniform pants. Little flare there at the bottom.
Just foul.
It looked looked like Nix was close to making contact with that ball. Derek really had to pull his hands in close to his body. No, I guess not. From our angle, it looked like he was close to getting his glove on that ball, and if he hits it in fair territory, even if the ball ends up in foul territory, it would have been a fair ball. But eyes are failing me here late in the game. Thought it was closer than that.
Just late in the game, you're giving yourself too much credit. 2-2 on Derek. Trying to keep the Cubs alive here in the ninth. But he cannot swing and a miss. Bobby Jenks comes on. Bails out Scott Linebrink. No save for Jenks, but the Sox win game 1, 10-5. Well, they brought out the lumber today, 16 hits. As they get the double digits, and Randy Wells has now lost 5 consecutive decisions. Well, the Cubs will turn to Carlos Silva to try to get him back on track tomorrow. And the GMC player of the game, it's A.J. Przinsky, who's had a lot of big games against the Cubs.
Oh, no doubt about it. Hits his first 4 at-bats in this ball game, including a home run back in the 7th inning to right field. He seems to like it when the lights are shining the brightest in this crosstown series.
Special thanks to our producer, Bob Albrecht, our director, Dave Turner, our associate producer, Tamara Anderson, our stage manager in the booth, Christine Charbonneau, our technical director today, Brian Holder. Mark Harper's our tech manager, the senior executive producer of Comcast Sportsnet, Jim Corno Jr. Great work by our entire crew. And while we're done with our game coverage, we have a lot more to come. Sylvania Post-Game Live is coming up. The final score today, the White Sox 10, the Cubs 5. Rob and I will be back with you Tuesday at 7 as the Oakland A's come to town, first of a 3-game series. In-game scoring provided by ScorePad. Now for Bob, for Gail Fisher, for our entire crew, we're going to send it over to our air-conditioned